Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. There's a lot to admire about Paul Grunberg. The longtime restaurateur has been at the helm of some of the city's best award-winning establishments for years, and people return to them over and over again. He began his career as a dishwasher, working his way up from restaurant consultant for Bao Bei, general manager for market at the Shangrila Hotel, before getting into restaurant ownership with L'Abattoir. Today he runs the much-beloved Savio Volpe, Pepino Spaghetti House, and Caffe La Tana. In this conversation, we talk about his close relationship with his late father, what it was like for him and his industry this last year, the traits he looks for when hiring for his team, the greatest joy his young sons have given him, and more. Please enjoy this intimate conversation with the very gracious, compassionate Paul Grunberg. Paul, welcome to The Craft.
Hi, May. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited for this conversation. I'm excited because we usually see each other at your restaurants or the occasional run-in on the street, but I don't think we've ever had a super deep dive, so I'm looking forward to this.
No, let's dive away.
Let's
dive
do it.
in head first.
Yes. I was trying to think of when we first met, and my recollection was it was years ago when you were still at L'Abattoir, and I think I was sitting up at the bar enjoying a cocktail.
I would say if not before that, definitely L'Abattoir. And if you were sitting at the bar, I would have definitely taken care of you.
You did.
And
I remember.
Yeah, that was an amazing time. It was good.
We'll get into that later, but I wanted to ask what you were like as a kid. We were chatting pre-recording here, and you said your mom was a social worker.
Yep.
And I've met your sister once before,
Okay.
Back in my writing days, and I think she had a company that I was doing a little write up about. But I don't know much about the rest of your family, so I'd love to know about you and them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had a great childhood. When I think about my childhood and thinking about where I came from, I was raised by two incredibly loving parents. My mother, social worker, worked really hard. My father was a lawyer, worked very hard. My dad, he's passed away. He died 7 or so years ago. But he was a Romanian immigrant, basically had nothing and built his way up to being a successful lawyer, went from Romania to Israel, from Israel to Calgary to Vancouver. And that's where he met my mom in Calgary. So my dad has like the real deal rags to riches story. And I'm not saying rich like money wise, just, he was able to achieve like a beautiful, wonderful life. And he lived a beautiful, wonderful life. My mom also was from an immigrant family in Calgary. And that's where she met my dad and was a social worker, moved to Vancouver, and they started a life together. There's a picture somewhere, my mom probably has it, of my mom and dad sitting in their like tiny one bedroom or studio apartment. I think it was in maybe Vancouver or maybe Calgary. I think Calgary. And it was probably from like the 70s, I would say. And because I was born in 80. And they're holding hands like across the table looking up at the picture. And it's just like, they had nothing, but they had each other.
They had each other.
And yeah, and my dad like furiously loved my mother. And it was evident. And I grew up with a lot of love. And I was fortunate, I needed a pair of soccer shoes. I got a pair of soccer shoes. I needed a pair of basketball shoes. I got a pair of basketball shoes. And I feel very, very lucky. And I had a wonderful childhood. My sister and me, older sister, she's doing great. She lives in Victoria. She's got a son who's, I think, about 2. I'm really bad with birthdays, sorry. And she owns a hair salon with her partner. It's called The Natural. She's doing really well. She's a serial entrepreneur, and she's definitely found her feet with her partner and in her new business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. There was the four of us, and of course, I have my loving wife Emily, who works in La Tana as well. She is like runs that place. She's incredible, and she came on board in March, or April rather, and she's just a force to reckon with. Totally shaped that place up, and just driving that online business. And as things constantly are changing, she's just ahead of the curve, and it's really inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my two beautiful children, Adrian and Gustav, named after my father, and they keep me busy. Yeah, a full life.
Yeah. I was listening to you talk about your dad
Yeah.
and him being an immigrant and hustling. And what I know of you and what I observe of you, you sound a lot like that.
Yeah. I mean, my dad uh, was an amazing human. His spirit was just, ferocious. He was like a big guy, like broad shoulders, had an accent, really loving and kind, but also he was extremely communicative and assertive. And being a lawyer, and especially he was a litigator, so he was a fighter. So he would go into the courtroom and he would fight for his client, and um, it was amazing. And yeah, I'm a good mix of my mom and dad, I would say. Um, but the lessons I learned from my dad over the years are I'll never forget. And when my dad passed away, not a day goes by that I feel like things were left unsaid. He knew how much I loved him, and I knew how much he loved me.
Mm,
And I would call my dad all the time, talk to him, and he battled cancer for 10 years or so. So it was a highs and lows in that scenario. I'm not
mhm.
sure if you had to deal with that in your life, but
I have actually.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. My grandmother 2 years ago, and then actually my sister
Oh God,
last year, but she's recovering, so
good, good. I'm happy.
grateful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
So nothing was left unsaid between you and your dad. That
No,
there were no regrets in that.
never. And that's
Mm,
actually something that my dad always told me is never have regrets, ever. And that stuck with me. And
mm,
I agree with it. It's like, never regret, and always look to the future. And I'm a really optimistic guy, and I'm a really positive person, and I'm a happy person.
mhm,
And despite the kicks to my shins, I'm pretty good at shaking it off and compartmentalizing, and being resilient. And I owe a lot of that to my father, for sure.
mm. That's really beautiful. And you, as a kid, what were you like?
Oh
Pretty
man.
much the same way?
Yeah, I like easy going.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like I think I've said over the years, like I never had a curfew because my parents, they trusted me, and they knew that I would just like come home. Like what else am I going to do? Like go get in trouble? Sure. I smoked cigarettes at the park, and I stole Playboy magazines from London Drugs with my buddy Aiden in grade 6, and we stole my friends' dad's cigarettes and smoked them with in grade 7, and we walked the train tracks smoking cigars. And like I got caught stealing cigars in grade 6, and there's a story to that too. um, but as a kid, I loved sports. I loved my friends. I was a good kid, had a great yeah, like nothing weird.
Yeah.
Nothing
You were
weird.
just you're a normal kid,
Normal kid
normal teenager.
at the park playing baseball
Yeah.
with my buddy Clifton after
Yep.
school. uh
And you had a part-time job. 16, you were a dishwasher, right? Is
Oh
that when you got
man.
onto the industry, restaurant industry at 16 and
I
worked your way up?
started before. I
Mm,
got a job working at the Metro Center Hotel in Kingsway and Burnaby.
okay. Yeah.
Sorry, on in Kingsway and Middleton, out in Burnaby. It doesn't exist anymore, but I would take the bus. It was a summer gig. My old man knew the owner of the hotel, who coincidentally was my like somehow cousin or something like that. But he was like, boy, Time to get a job. And I had like done jobs before. I like did some clerical work for my uncle at his eye clinic, and I'm super dyslexic, so I was really young, and my job was to file people's files, and I couldn't. I was getting confused by the alphabet, like your name, like G, and I just wouldn't know where to put them.
Mm.
So it's kind of a joke, not joke, but I would screw them all up, and then my uncle's assistant would then have to come and redo them all. So that was one summer job. But no, this summer job at the Metro Center Hotel, it was awesome. It's like kind of where I learned the value of a dollar. And I was probably, 13 years old, 14 years old, while all my friends were having a gay old time in their backyards, jumping on trampolines. I was on the bus going out to Burnaby every day. And I think I made a little bit of cash. But I worked alongside the head of maintenance at this hotel. And this hotel wasn't exactly, the Westin and Whistler. It was the Metro Center Hotel in Burnaby. It was very transient. A lot of truckers would hitch their post there, and there was a strip club and a poker room, which I wasn't allowed to go into. And I went in once, but I didn't see anything. It was like I was very much understood that I could not go in the strip club or the poker room. My dad, like specifically, was like, he can't go in there. I was too young. So I worked alongside Mario, this Polish immigrant head of maintenance, and I would check in with him throughout the day on my tasks, and they always started with sweeping the parking lot. So I start with sweeping the parking lot, and it was a huge parking lot, like massive. But I had to there was only so many hours in the day, and I was stuck out there for like 8 hours because my uncle or my cousin would drive me home at the end
Mm.
of the day, and his day ended at 5. My day started at 9. So I had a lot of stuff to do or pretend that I was doing. And I would sweep the parking lot, and occasionally I would, sneak away to the side of the building and like smoke a cigarette. I think I was smoking cigarettes back then. And after the parking lot was done, I'd have to check back in with Mario, and then Mario would say, "Okay, on to the next." And he was like, if I remember, he had like longer hair, wore like kind of navy blue jumpsuit, and I'd follow him around like a puppy dog, and he'd be like, "Okay, we're gonna go change the locks on this room," and I was like, "Okay." So I would learn how to change locks, cut keys. I'd do a lot of sweeping up. I'd clean brass in the kitchen. All the employees, they loved me because I was this like young kid, just really nice and helpful. I would vacuum. I would clean up floods in the basement.
Mm. You're doing a lot of dirty work.
All the dirty work. But here's the kicker. Here's where I feel like I really learned something. I would sit in the staff room, and Mario would kick back, and he was a chain smoker. And I said, "What are you doing this weekend? Like, what?" I don't know exactly what I asked him, but it stands out to me. And basically, he said, or I said, I wouldn't have said what makes you happy, but in essence, he said, Paul, all I'm going to do, in this thick Polish accent, he said, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to get a 6-pack of beer. I'm going to turn my air conditioning on, and I'm going to sit and watch TV for the weekend. And I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. So I went home, and I think I detailed the story to my father, who also, was an immigrant and, understood the value of a dollar. And I said, it's funny, Mario, he just wants to go and drink a beer and smoke cigarettes and watch TV. And my dad really explained it. And he's just like, everyone's got their own idea of comfort and what they want to do for the weekend. He's like, you might want to go watch the Vancouver 86ers, or you might want to go to the park, but he just wants to do that. And it started to click in that everyone has their own story. And
Mm.
I feel like I learned that at a I was quite young to be in that environment. And it was great.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good lesson to learn at a young age, and to realize too that everyone's definition of joy and happiness
That's all
is
he
different.
wanted. He was a simple guy. And there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that,
No,
you know?
absolutely
So,
not. And then, sort of fast forwarding through your career, um, you became a consultant for Bao Bei, and you can correct me if
sure.
I'm wrong in any
Yeah,
of
no
this.
problem.
And then general manager at Market by Jean Georges
Yep.
at Shangri-La,
Yep.
and then you eventually got into restaurant ownership with L'Abattoir.
Uh-huh.
And now you've got award winning Savio Volpe with Craig Stangetta, Chef Marc Perrier, Pepinos, and Caffe La Tana. What a journey.
Yeah, and Mark actually, we dis we disengaged with Mark
Mm.
last year,
Oh, I see.
just before COVID,
Hmm.
but we wish him well. It's been a journey, to say the least. I mean, I went from sweeping up parking lots at the Metro Center Hotel to washing dishes at Earl's on Fur, to making pizzas, to doing whatever I had to do, and kind of slowly but surely working my way to where I wanted to be. And that was, I always wanted to be, a restaurant man, so to speak. And it's been a really positive journey.
Hmm.
There's been some knockdowns, but I've always managed to get back up, and it's going pretty well.
Hmm. I'm curious about what you just said. You said you always wanted to be a restaurant man. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
Well, again, it kind of comes back to my father, where my dad was the man in the suit. My dad always wore beautiful suits. He shaved every day, combed his hair. He would walk out the door looking like $1 million. He loved, hand lotion and cologne, and he was a manly man, but he also was, he liked the finer things in life, and
Hmm.
because he never had them, never had anything. So I wanted to be the man in the suit as well. And I always said that. I was like, I want to be the man in the suit too. So I kind of, I worked in the kitchens for a while, and kind of paid my dues, not like long term, because it was just the environment wasn't suited for me so much as the environment dealing with the customers and communicating. That was where my passion was. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. So that brought me into being the man in the suit, so to speak.
Mm.
And then once I got tired of wearing the suit, I was like, I'm never putting on a suit ever again. And I don't actually wear one. So
Yes. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your last 10, 11 months. It's been a very trying time for so many
Yeah.
people. And I imagine for you, it was really hard.
Yeah. I mean, I go rewind to March 17th or 15th or whenever, and you're basically, you have, I think, Caitlin, who is my operations manager, and Phil Scarfone, who's our culinary director, who had just started with us in like January or February. And we were in the office and basically kind of standing over with a red button, and it was like I had to make the decision to like push that red button, and that red button had consequences that I've never had um, to comprehend. The consequences were laying off 125 associates at that push of the button. It was closing my restaurants with the push of the button, and it was coming up with um, email blast to the entire all the associates, advising them, what was going on, giving them resources or whatever we knew, and being communicative. I traveled from restaurant to restaurant, and I met with all the associates that were on site that day, and I was face to face with them. So I was able to connect with 30 or 40 associates face to face and let them know what I knew, which was not a lot. It was, we made a proactive decision to close the restaurants a couple days before the order came in, because we were looking out for the safety of our associates first and foremost. And once I think we pushed that red button, more restaurants followed suit, because it's a really tough decision to make, and I've never had to make that, and I hope I never have to again, because you are fucking with people's lives, and that's like anyone that you talk to and you ask them, are you okay to fire someone? Like, is terminating someone okay with you? And if they reply back to be like, yeah, like I live for it, I love it, and I'd be like, you're a sick fuck. I don't want you anywhere near me or my family or my people, because it's not cool to mess with people. Just like it's not cool to steal someone's car stereo. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's their stuff. Don't mess with them. So it was really tough. But slowly but surely, fast forwarding as the months go by, takeout ramps up, and we're able to hire back, a smaller percentage of associates. And then, present day, we're pretty much back to where we were, not capacity or revenue, but in terms of our associates, I think we've hired back successfully everyone that's wanted to come back.
That's incredible.
Obviously, over the past year, there's been turnover, some forced and some not forced, but um, that's business. But yeah, no, we're fully employing, I think, pretty much everyone. And of course, the feds have issued the subsidies, the wage subsidy and the rent subsidies, which are great, and that's exactly what they're for, is to make sure that I can hire you back and give you a job and pay you what you were making. And so we're very fortunate to be in Canada and extra fortunate to be in British Columbia.
Yeah, no, I agree. Very fortunate to be on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And I feel like you were also one of the, um, restaurant groups to quickly pivot into a marketplace as well,
Yeah.
which I remember was one of the, you know, first messages I got from you guys with your newsletter was, Caffe La Tana, you can
Yeah.
order, pick up,
Order pickup.
deliver.
We look Cafe La Tana the first couple years. It ran. It was doing fine, but it wasn't what we wanted it to be. And Emily, my partner, she is the one who stripped it down and built it back up. So we are now cooking with gas. We are doing very well. Scale speaking. I'm not saying like we're like you get it. It's a cafe or a grocer. Um, but it's great because it gives us an opportunity to showcase all the beautiful ingredients that we use in the restaurants. And it also, we forged a lot of new relationships with vendors on the East Coast and London, Italy, Spain, and it's really unique products that no one can find or get. So we're definitely putting our stamp on who we are, and we're putting our flag in the sand. So um, Latana is kind of it's a runaway success as far as I'm concerned. And the overnight pivot is basically we stripped the coolers at Savio and Pepino's and we broke them down and we transformed whatever we had, raw ingredients and pantry ingredients, and we brought them down to Latana. And we were just, if it wasn't nailed down, we were selling it. So,
Mm,
or giving it away or giving it to our staff. But that's how it all started. And it was fun. I
hmm.
worked like 6, 7 weeks straight. And it was fun. Um, Making it happen. I was making marinara sauce. I was making pizza dough, rolling pizza dough. It was like I loved it,
Yeah,
and
sounds like a happy place
yeah,
for
it
you.
was it was great. And it what we weren't like making heaps of cash. I mean, I don't want anyone to think that that's what this business is about. It was like we were paying the bills, and which was important because when we push that red button, I still have vendors to pay. I still have taxes to pay and rent to pay, and if yeah, a lot of people just got crushed like right
Hmm.
out the gate, and they're
Hmm.
still probably trying to recoup because the restaurant business is tough. It's
Yeah.
it's like relentless.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you go to a restaurant, but you don't think of all of the orchestration that goes behind it when you're the guest. You're just there experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like that with a lot of different jobs. I remember when I did a small little stint when I was younger in PR, and I thought it was a really glamorous industry. But then once I was working, and I'm like, wow, people don't know how much work this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, to pivot back to you, um, you know, I had said in the beginning, I think you're such a gracious host, and that's one of the first things that I thought when I met you. And I can tell that the guest experience at your restaurants, I mean, it's exceptional. And for me, I'm like, I think to myself, oh, Paul puts a lot of thought, careful thought into this. And I know you've referred to in the past that running a great restaurant is an art form. So when you come up with a concept for your restaurant, take me through your thought process.
Well, to me, hospitality is like it's something that lives inside of you, and it's not something that just anyone can be good at. And there are certain skills you can teach, like how to clear a table, how to pour soup so you don't spill, how to open a bottle of wine. Those are skills you can teach, but you can't teach character, you can't teach personality, you can't teach passion or instinct. And those are things, fortunately and unfortunately, that I feel like I have. with this business, and I'm very good at it, and I'm proud to say that. And I'm not saying that, being an asshole or being arrogant. It's like, no, you know what? I'm good at what I do, and I'm proud of what I do, and my product is superior, whether it's the culinary aspect or whether it's the hospitality aspect, because I work my ass off. I work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and I sleep, but I wake up and I think about work, and that's all I do. It's an obsession. And to be successful in this business, I think if you were to talk to anyone that is successful in this business or in any business that requires you to be an entrepreneur, and have that instinct, it's a 24/7 game. And I think over the years, and now, with a family, you have to come up with tips and tricks on how to, you know, take time for your family. And
Mm-hmm.
most of all, the thing that I struggle with is, being present when I'm with my kids or my wife and on a Sunday afternoon. And I'm doing my best and I'm working on that. And that's very real because I feel like the hospitality industry, there's a lot of casualties with respect to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you find a relationship that you want to stick with, you got to work at it.
Right.
Um,
Because of the long hours and
it's not, it's just like, everything's so fucking random. It's like texts, emails, nobody really, it's not like you're a banker and it's like 9 to 5 and your
mm,
phone doesn't ring on the weekends. There's like stuff that always comes up. So you have to really manage that, expectation and that stress level. But anyways, I think to your question, um, I I just do I try my best to inspire my associates, and I try my best to be present with them and be a leader, and to be credible and to earn
mm-hmm.
their respect and to drive them and to make
Mm,
sure that they want to wake up every day and come to work with me on whatever we're working on.
mm-hmm.
Like we do Friday operations meetings, and this past Friday, um, I did a short, pulled one quickly out of the hat, but I did a presentation to the management about. I drew a castle, and then I drew a circle around it, and then I basically was like, this castle is protected by this moat. I don't know if you've heard that term.
Yes, yeah, the
Okay.
water around the castle, yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you could say it could be a fence, it could be
Yep.
whatever. So I was like, okay, I did the moat thing because I Googled it, and because Craig and I were talking, and he's just like, yeah, and we talked for a minute. I grabbed an idea, then I did this little presentation for my staff, and I was kind of like unsure if my messaging became clear to them, but they all seemed to really latch onto it, and all of a sudden their productivity spiked and they were more engaged and they looked more awake and the light bulbs went off, and I'm like, okay, good. And so now I'm going to roll with it. And that's what inspires me, is to be able to come back to them again on Friday and create a new challenge or a new inspiration. And
Mm,
my hope is that they equally inspire their associates, and then their associates equally inspire their clients and provide that level of hospitality that people want and people need, because the competition, there's restaurants everywhere, and you can go get similar product down the street, but why do you come back? What is it? Is it
mm-hmm.
the
It's the experience.
the experience? Is it the fresh bread? Yeah, that's great. Is it the beautiful wine? Yeah. Is it the lighting? Yeah. But is it the people and the food? It all clicks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I agree. It's like it's the entire holistic experience
yeah,
is why I always come back
yeah,
to your restaurants.
good.
Yeah. And
And
obviously to see you if
well,
you're
of
there.
course. Yeah. And not for nothing, I'll go back to my dad again. So, when I was a partner at L'Abattoir, and that restaurant was very chef driven, and Lee is like one of the most talented chefs in the country. He's a phenomenal cook. Like, just some of the stuff the guy comes up with is insane. So, hats off to him. My father said to me, he said, L'Abattoir isn't just successful because of Lee, because I'm a humble guy. I didn't take, there was no spotlight grabbing. It was like, no, I was there, I worked my ass off, and we were successful. But the food, more often than not, was getting the credit, where I was more of the linebacker, and I was fine with that. But my dad said, Paul, the food isn't what makes L'Abattoir successful necessarily. It's you. And he bought me this book called The Art of the Restaurateur,
Mm,
and I still have it. and it's a big, thick book. And basically, it talks about, our jobs as front men, as restaurateurs, as hosts, as maitre d's, and how we are able to um, support the culinary. So it is a real yin and yang, the culinary in the front of house. So when you have that magic and you have that atmosphere and everything clicks, that's like the shiver effect. That's when you get those shivers, and the experience is just, it's fireworks.
Mm. And when you're looking to hire an associate,
hmm
what is it that you look for? What are those innate qualities that
I,
you're scanning for?
yeah, I haven't done traditional interviews in a really long time. I try to, I empower my management to make those decisions often, and they make the right decisions because they know the culture that we're looking for, the positive, wonderful, supportive culture. But personally, I sat in on an interview. There was a young woman interviewing in the cafe for a position, and I was in the cafe, and I just kind of popped in, popped down, and was like, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Paul." And the thing is, May, right away. You know right away if that associate, that potential associate, is awake. You can see inherently in them, what makes you tick. Like, are you an honest person? Are you, you can look at their fingernails. You can ask them, there's like asshole things like, oh, if they don't put away their water glass after the interview, that's a bad sign. It's like, is that really, like, they're probably just nervous and they don't know where it goes, but they could be a very sweet person that you need to give them a chance. So I think you need to look past the conventional bullshit you might read in a book or you might have an instructor tell you. You need to get out there and you need to experience and you need to communicate and you need to open yourself up and understand what makes people tick. And just because they don't have experience in hospitality doesn't mean they can't be a star.
Mm.
And, you have to give people an opportunity. And oftentimes, what I like is people will be let go of another job. And maybe someone in the industry calls me and they're saying, "Oh, I wouldn't go near May. I had a problem with her. She was a real bad apple." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I think May's really sweet. And I think May has a tremendous amount of opportunity within her. So I think that I've done a great job at looking at everyone as an individual and sort of peeling back the onion, so to speak, and
Hmm.
finding people's strengths and then utilizing them, and hence making my companies and my restaurants more successful.
Mm.
So utilizing people's strengths and looking within, and you can ask all sorts of trick questions. You can be like, Elon Musk asking, what problems have you solved recently, and tell me the step by step, and I'm going to find out if you're lying. I
Mm.
read that guy. That's what he does in interviews. That's what Elon Musk says. He says, "Describe to me a problem that you recently resolved and the steps how you resolved it." And he said that he can tell if that person is lying or not.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that works for you. I was going to try that with someone, and then I'm like, no, that's not me. I'm going to
Right.
get confused and fumble it like I just did. And then the person's going to be like, "Are you okay?"
I'm not sure I want to be here.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
sorry, I think I rambled on,
No,
but
no,
I'm
not
getting
at
all I'm getting
all.
all fired up here,
I
May.
love
I
it.
like it. It's good.
I was going to say, you had, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Um, I wanted to ask, is loyalty a big value in restaurants? Because I often see familiar faces like working together or following each other to different restaurants. And I read Kitchen Confidential at
Ah,
Anthony
beautiful.
Bourdain, and it, and I got the sense that there is kind of like this loyalty and camaraderie that
Yeah.
happens in this industry.
Yeah.
Did I read that wrong, or?
No. Well, Anthony Bourdain, wouldn't say he's like a mentor of mine, but I read his books. I followed him for the last forever, ever since I started the industry. So that's a good benchmark of people. He's just a, like, I don't know. That's a whole separate discussion. But loyalty, definitely. I'm like loyal to a fault. And I've had people with me for a long, long time, and I still have relationships with people that are no longer with me. Romano
Yes.
Castillo. So he worked with me for like 10 or 15 years, and he's moved on. A few months ago, he's working with his family on I think his, um, that's like a hair salon thing. Anyways, he's doing great. But No, loyalty is huge, and I think like that's what people want in life. They want to be surrounded with people like-minded and are
Yeah.
caring and providing opportunity and growth. That's how you gain loyalty
Hmm.
with your associates.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, loyalty is a great virtue to have. I remember my train of thought. I
Okay.
had so many questions for you. That's
Yeah.
why I lost
Cool.
my train of thought.
No
But
sweat.
yeah, no, I just wanted to comment on what you said about giving people a chance. And that is a lesson I actually learned from the founder of the company I used to be with, Bob Rennie. And he had talked about the people in his life that gave him another hoop to jump through, is what he called it. And I think of the times in my life where people just took a chance on me too, and that chance led me to a better place. And I do think that um, being someone who does that, I think is just really good for the world.
Yeah.
It lets
Uh,
people see their move toward their potential rather than an obstacle
I
or barrier.
I agree. I think that a really wonderful quality trait, quality trait, is that a word? A really wonderful
It
quality
is
trait
now.
in people is empathy. And I think that to be successful, whether it's monetarily or, whatever success means to you, empathy while working with others is probably the number one. Um, and Bob Rennie, he's a friend of mine, and he's a wonderful person, and that is someone with a lot of love and empathy. And it's no secret that you have very fond things to say about Bob and his team and working with them. And I've worked with them too for years. And Carrie and their office was close by, and um, I think that's what it's all about. It's creating opportunity and creating hoops for people to jump through, and um, it's great.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you do that. Um, I wanted to ask. So you work closely with your wife.
Uh-huh.
What has that been like, and what makes your synergy so strong?
Well, we didn't always work together. Emily joined the team in, I guess, March. I'd say April, and she's kind of gone full on and working her tail off, and just like me. And it works really well with her and I because we're both similar in that we're incredibly driven and our skills are very complementary. So she's like, I said this last night. I don't know what I was asking her. She's like the best consigliere you could ever have.
Mm,
And like Tony Soprano and Sil,
yes,
like that was his consigliere.
yeah, the
And
advisor.
yeah, like she's just like the way my brain works and her brain, they're very different. And she's incredible with making my thoughts become clearer. And that's my, I wouldn't say problem or negative necessarily, but my thoughts go like bang, 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 bang. And I have a really hard time honing them in and clearly communicating them. So oftentimes I'll lean on her and I'll say, hey, like, does this sound all right? Or am I coming on the right track? And she's very good at being black and white, but also having that sense of compassion that I often have too much of
Mm,
in running my day to day, and that can kind of get you jammed up sometimes. So when you lead with your heart in business all the time, it's difficult. So you have to find that balance, and I think that her and I balance each other very well
mm,
professionally.
That's your yin and yang there.
Definitely, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. How can the community support the restaurant industry in their cities right now, other than dining in safely or ordering takeout? Are there any initiatives that people can contribute to that they may not be aware of? Like, what can people do?
Um, you know, I think the community itself has done a really, really great job at at support. Whether it, like you said, dining out or buying a gift card or doing takeout or dining in, whatever people's comfort zones are. I think the industry needs a lot of support when it comes to um, I guess it would be like the entry level associates. And there are more people at risk than you think in this industry. And, I've had associates on my team that I had never met before, and they're younger. And word got to me that this person potentially is vulnerable and perhaps has like food security issues. And I've kind of tried my best to either give that person more food or say, hey, you know what, like you can go shopping tonight and buy whatever you want, or take some takeout, or here's $100 or here's $20. And I think that the support needs to start from the people who are running the businesses for their own associates and ensuring that they are whole and there are no food security issues while they're employed with you, and whether that's paying them a reasonable wage because there is the wage subsidy. So
Mhm.
you know, eh, I get it. Like everyone's business is different, and you can run your business however you see fit. But in terms of the community support, I don't know. It's hard to ask people for more because I feel like people are already giving so much. And I feel like there's a lot of challenges right now in the atmosphere. And there's so much walking anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
And I think the community has done a really great job at providing support where they can. Um, it's hard for me to say, oh, you know what, buy some gift cards, because that's not going to do anything. It's
Yeah.
great. Thank you, but it's not really going to help the ones who are vulnerable with those food security issues or problems paying their rent. And I think the feds and the government have done a great job at providing, CERB and um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think people are doing the best they can
Right.
in a really, really tough time. It's not,
Mhm.
this isn't over,
No.
and that's the thing. It's like, if we're lucky, 2021 will mirror 2020.
Mm.
That's what I'm hoping for from,
Mhm.
running a business.
Yeah.
Um, but the community I think's done a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like there has been a lot of support in as much as people could do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know these guys, but they're the guys that own the Mackenzie Room,
Mhm.
and they have another place up on Fraser. I think they've done a. It stands out to me because I must have seen it, and they've done a great job at it's called staff meal, I think, and they
Mm.
basically took in money. They got donations, and that donations translated to staff meal for anyone in the industry could come and get food, or they pay like a really nominal amount for like a spaghetti bolognese, or like cheaper food that's
Mhm.
cooked properly, and they're able to get access to that. They're still at a price because they have to pay for the cost, but it would be like $5 for a sandwich, or I'm not sure if that's what they're doing, but their
Mhm.
name comes out. Um,
Yeah.
we did for a long time this program called Healthcare Heroes, and I was delivering them to the hospitals and to the nurses and frontline workers, and that was successful. And that's the community was supportive of that too. I matched every dollar, and um, that was great. And I think it's about, if you're able to help, help, and if you're
Mhm.
not able to help, that's okay.
Right.
And I think there's no pressure, you
Yeah, and
know.
I think that can be a general statement too, like wherever you
Right.
can help someone somewhere.
Yeah. Like it's quite cold outside.
Yeah.
If you see someone who's vulnerable and you've got an extra $5 in your pocket, give them the $5.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
what? They want to go buy a sandwich, buy a sandwich. They want to go buy a six pack, buy a six pack. It
Mhm.
takes me back to what my father said about, Mario likes a six pack and a beer. Where I was thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't you want to do this? And you know what? Some people just want to drink a beer.
Mhm.
Another example is I was walking with my dad once upon a time, and we were holding hands, and I was quite young, and there was this man in a wheelchair, and the man in the wheelchair was smoking a cigarette. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, that doesn't make sense. Like, he's already like in a wheelchair. Why is he smoking a cigarette? And my dad said, hey, look, that cigarette could be the last pleasurable thing that that guy gets to do. And it
Mhm.
just stuck out in my mind. It's like you can't be quick to judge people, and you have to sort of have that empathy
Yeah.
and try to help people where you can. And I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
rambling on, but
No, I know what you mean. You just need to allow people space to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially now, just
Mhm.
like, to step back, take a breath,
Yeah.
and do your best to be present.
Right. And is that what you've been doing over the last, 10, 11 months for your own mental health? It's just,
Uh, yeah,
yeah, how have you managed
it's
with the
been,
ups and downs?
um, I live in North Vancouver, where it's quiet, and I go for walks, try to go every day in the forest with my dog walking buddies. And one guy in particular, he's a character, John, if you're listening. So I try to get out in the woods, hug a tree, so to speak.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time with my youngest son, um, and I do a lot of cooking. Like I'm cooking 6 7 nights a week, and that is really relaxing for me.
Mhm.
And I drink a lot of wine. I drink heavily,
Yeah.
not heavily, but yeah, and I don't really care. I like it, and
Yeah.
it's not like a problem.
Yeah.
It's just I'm doing it. I'm doing
Right.
me.
You're doing you.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask a question. Throughout this interview, I can tell how close you were to your father.
yeah.
What was the hardest thing about losing him?
Uh, I think it was. It's interesting because oftentimes when I think about my dad or when I get questioned about my dad, I get kind of choked up, and I'm feeling like I'm not getting choked up, which maybe is an interesting. Um, it's my healing or process is clicking along. Anyways, the thing that I that I miss most about my dad, you know, I don't want to say like everything because that's obvious. Talking to him, calling him, seeking his counsel, so to speak, and he's a very smart guy, and he always taught me to save my words and not over communicate. And um, I just miss barbecuing a steak with him. I'd love to be able to sit with him and have a steak and a bottle of wine, and we didn't even like talk that much because he was a man of few words, sort of, and just sitting there with him would be cool. Watching a movie. We watched a lot of movies together. I used to like lie on his stomach, and we'd call them bad movies, and they'd be like Jean Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport, and
Love that movie.
you know, so,
Yeah.
as my kids are getting older and, my wife will be up in the kitchen and she'll be like, "What are you doing down there?" I'll be like, "Oh, we're watching a bad movie." And I feel like you are your parents in so many ways.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm emulating my father in a lot of ways. And that's one thing for sure. He was a great father. And there was no like, it was always like, "I love you, I love you, I love you," and kisses and like hugs. And
Mhm.
that's the way I am with my kids too. So,
Mm. Which, yeah, it actually takes me to the next question. I actually remember the day that you told me that you were a new father.
okay.
I think we had run into each other on the street,
Yeah.
and I remember how much your eyes had lit up when you told me about Adrian.
Yeah.
What's been your greatest joy in your boys?
Um, I think it's just really cool when I have them. Well, Adrian lives on the East Coast in Montreal, but we've been thick as thieves since he's been born and since he moved there. And I think it's amazing to watch my two sons have the relationship that they have when they just kind of fit together every time they see each other, and it's just like normal. And that is probably my greatest joy is just seeing their relationship flourish and know that they're brothers and they'll be brothers forever no matter what. And even though Adrian lives in Montreal and Gus is with us in Vancouver, and Adrian comes out here, we go out there, and it's just their normal. And it makes me warm inside knowing that they're going to have each other forever.
Mm.
And it's not like a girlfriend or a boyfriend where things are can move on. It's like, nope, you're brothers and you'll have each other forever, and they're going to grow up supporting each other and loving each other, and that is joyful to me
Mm.
for sure.
Hmm. Well, I've really loved this conversation, and I am conscious that you're a busy man. I have one more question for
Shoot.
you. With the work that you do, what is it that you want to leave behind in the world?
um it's a good question. I hope that one day, through all this hard work and sacrifice that I've made this past 20 years in my career, I hope that one day I recognize what I've done. I hope that I've able to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the successes and the failures. And I hope that when I've left either this planet or left this industry, because there is an end game. Um, I hope that when my name comes up, it's in a positive notion. It's oh, Grunberg, I worked for Grunberg. What an amazing leader! Or what
Mm.
he taught me that empathy, to lead with empathy, and to he taught me the value of the guest experience and the art of hospitality. And there's all that stuff, but I don't know. Um, It's a good question. I think primarily what I need to work on is being able to be good with that question. I think I need
Mm.
to be good with myself in that recognizing how my work translates onto my associates and the
Hmm.
people that I work with. And I think that I do have a lot of impact, and I hope that it continues to stay positive and I'm able to continue to foster all of these amazing relationships that I have. And I hope that when people talk about me in the past tense, so to speak, that it's in a positive light and it's conversation around positive impact and empathy and leadership.
Hmm. Yeah, that working with you was a good experience, which is,
Yeah, yeah. I've not had too many negative experiences. I mean, there have
yeah.
been some ups and downs, but nothing,
Hmm.
all positive.
Well, I know you'll leave an impact for sure, if
Thank you.
not already.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yes, I look forward to another conversation sometime soon.
And congratulations to you. I mean, this is
Thank
an
you.
amazing platform for you to highlight, entrepreneurs. And I think it's really incredible that you're offering this space and this time to have these intimate conversations that are enlightening. And I'm very very proud of you.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
think keep up the great work.
Yeah, I was just saying to end on this note, maybe I was just saying to a friend the other day, even if it's just to create space for someone to have an open conversation and they feel like they've gotten something off their chest or shared something that they want to, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's similar to like a really good conversation, yes, with a friend, and like it's like a therapy. It's like it's just a release. It's a safe
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah,
Good for
having
you.
good connections are healing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, May.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes of The Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.